Yeah. Welcome to Playback. I'm Brandon.
I am Nate.
Playback is the podcast where two music producers, that's us, analyze and discuss their favorite and sometimes not so favorite albums. On this episode, the very first episode in history, we are discussing the album Christmas in the Heart by Bob Dylan.
That's right.
Which is chosen by my good friend Nate here. Nate, why in God's name? Why did you choose Christmas in the Heart by Bob Dylan? For our inaugural episode here.
So, being that it is, at least when you hear this, probably it's Christmas time. It's the holiday season, and as creators of holiday music ourselves, Brandon and I have actually made a Christmas album before. I thought
yeah,
I thought it would be cool to. I wanted to pick a Christmas album because of the season, obviously, but I wanted to pick one that I don't know. Christmas is so Christmas music is so like love or hate, and I feel like that was kind of a challenge when we were making it. Was like, how are we making ours? Was like, how do you make a Christmas album that isn't just like universally like hated? You know?
Yeah.
It's really easy to just kind of annoy people with Christmas music, I feel like.
Yeah. How do we make it not lame?
How do you make it not lame, not annoying?
Yeah.
How do you do reverence, justice to the songs? That are also songs you've heard a billion times. And I thought this would be an interesting one because it's really divisive as far as Christmas albums go. I think if you're a certain kind of Bob Dylan nerd, like me, I think it'll work for you. It'll hit for you. But if you're maybe someone not as familiar with Bob Dylan, Brandon,
me, yes. Yeah.
I don't know how it will go over. I remember how it went over for me when it came out, and I was not.
How did it? Oh, the first time you heard it, you were not a fan?
I think the first time I heard it, it was like major groan. I was like, oh my God, especially because Dylan at the time when this came out around 2009, he had been on such a run of just like. He'd revitalized his whole career. The era of songwriting he was in was like just, the quality of the albums was so high. The songs he was writing was so good. And this was kind of like...
And then he made a Christmas album.
Yeah. But it's funny because what this really was kind of announcing another kind of like sub-era that he's kind of been in concurrently, which is he's done like a number of albums where he goes back and does like Tin Pan Alley songs and Sinatra. He did all these Sinatra albums, and this one actually predates those, where he's just dipping back into like kind of the American or folk songbook, and it's interesting. I feel like if he had done kind of the Sinatra covers albums first, maybe this would have made a little bit more sense, but this coming right out the gate in the midst of like his critically acclaimed kind of resurgence, it was a big like, oh my God, like why the fuck is he doing this? And there's no way it's gonna be good. Like it's gonna be stupid. Like it was kind of embarrassing.
The idea, I have to say, the idea on paper. Like, hey, have you heard Bob Dylan's? Late Bob Dylan's. Yeah. Have you heard Bob Dylan's 2009 Christmas album?
Honestly, though, would this be any better if it was like
imagine?
His prime? Like, imagine if you put it out in prime. Well, it wouldn't even be better. It would be almost more.
That's a good question. Right, yeah. You'd picture, on paper, you would picture it being fucking insane and weird and lame in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like imagine his like too cool like polka dot 60s Ray-Ban like maybe jingle bells jingle all the way. Like that would be fucking even worse. I think it'd be way worse than this.
Yes.
It would be like
I agree. It would be way worse. But that even just goes to show is that like that low expectation that I have for what that would be is the low expectation. It's very similar to the low expectation that I had of this,
For sure.
of like hearing, okay, late Bob Dylan does a Christmas album.
Right.
Like I can't, without hearing it, prior to hearing it, I can't picture how it would be good.
Yeah. Because
I can't imagine a version of it being good.
Even his like peak era is like totally memed on, right? And made fun of. Like the way he sings. Even him, even him at
Walk Hard and
even him at his peak, at his best in the 60s, when people really think of Bob Dylan, that era when they think of him, even that is like memed on. And then on top of that, you go, it's not even from that good era.
Right,
It's from like, oh, you didn't know Bob Dylan's like still making music, and it's you know,
and his voice fell apart,
and his voice is insane. Yeah. Brandon,
yo,
you've never listened to this before. What was your first impression?
This was the first time.
What was your first impression of Christmas in the Heart?
Yeah, so the first time, big picture, I'll just say right out the gate, I really like this album.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's really good.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Got him.
So,
we got him. Got him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Bob Dylan hater has been compromised.
I don't hate Bob Dylan.
No,
it's just a thing where, and I do get why it, as a lover of Bob Dylan, the way that I am about him would be very frustrating, because like when some, with one of the greats, someone who's amazing, like Jimi Hendrix or something, and when someone's like, yeah, he's all right. It pisses me off even more than if someone's like, dude, I don't like him.
Right. Yeah.
Like being ambivalent to a great is more frustrating, and I understand, and I'm ambivalent to Bob Dylan. It's like whatever. Like it doesn't hit me the way that it hits other people. But
I am starting to get annoyed. You're right.
Yeah. So see, told you. But no, I think this album is really amazing, and we will get into it in greater detail and all the different aspects and all the and as we go along, I can get into all the different ways that I think it's really great and all the reasons why I think it's really great, because it's more than one reason, and it's more than just a general vibe. It's not just I think it's great in general. Like there's reasons.
Yeah.
And even the fact that there are reasons is one of the reasons why I like this, is because many Christmas albums out there, it's very apparent how little craft went into them. It's very common for artists in general, whether they're big artists or like anonymous artists like us, making a Christmas album and releasing it. It's very common for it to be kind of just like, slapped together, done real quick, just kind of doing a cursory job, doing a surface level job of doing it and putting it out.
Like a lot of,
and you can feel it.
A lot of Christmas albums like almost have the sound and the feeling of like a keyboard preset.
Yeah. Right.
Like it's like I don't know if maybe that's just like I have Christmas, like I associate like Christmas karaoke with like a lot of Christmas music or something, but like sometimes it really does kind of sound that way. It does sound, they do tend to sound kind of slapped together, and like the opposite of how this was produced, like and performed, which is like with utmost respect for the songs, like really earnestly, like
exactly. In contrast to that, it's so apparent that like the level of care and thought and time and like real authentic performances that are on this album. Like you can
a real band,
whether or not he actually does, it sounds like Bob Dylan really gives a shit about these songs when he's singing them. It sounds like he does.
I believe that he does. I really believe that he does. And
I do too.
Yeah, it's So I'll tell you my impression of listening to this again. I've been a Dylan fan most of my life at this point. And like I said earlier, when this came out, I was very like, I don't know, I was probably 18 or so when this came out, 19. And I was like, really into the cool guy electric Dylan, phase. And I loved his new music when at the time, the contemporary music he was putting out around this, because he had kind of recaptured that. He had, it was totally different. He was in a totally new sound, which I think we should talk about, the sound he was in, or like kind of the musical headspace he's in with this, aside from it just being Christmas music. But he was doing something that managed to kind of, in my opinion, like recapture some of the magic of his best, earliest work. He kind of found a way to work back to that either headspace or mindset or whatever he did around the 90s to kind of get back. It's just like amazing. So like for me, I was listening to like his cool guy 60s stuff and his brand new stuff. And so when he put this out, it was like major groan. But contrast that.
Wait, was it major groan when you heard about it, or was it major groan when you listened to it? Listened to it, and you're like, oh my god.
When I heard about it,
right? Okay,
I was like, oh god.
Okay, yeah, because for me, there's a big difference between hearing that it exists, and actually listening to it. So
totally.
All right.
So actually listening to it, I seem to remember I've always been a defender of this album, even amongst like my clique of like very opinionated Dylan friends.
The Dylan heads.
Yeah. I've always liked
the Bob Hive.
The Bob heads. Yeah. I've always liked it, but I remember at the time even kind of feeling like I almost resented him for like, even though I thought it was good, it's like, of course I thought it was good. I'm like a sycophant, I'm like a total fucking.
Oh, like you're taking advantage of my
you're
cult
making
status, like you're abusing my love.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Like, why are you doing this? It's like sending me out on TV and asking me to defend drinking the Kool-Aid or something. That's what it felt like to talking to people about this, because most people couldn't get beyond the like on paperness of it, of like how ridiculous it sounds, especially everybody's aware of his singing voice at this point.
We should talk about that.
I have a lot of thoughts about
because I think that it may be that some people listening may not be aware of how Bob Dylan's voice changed since he was young.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody knows about that. That what you associate with Bob Dylan, the hit him in the head.
That's kind of gone.
That's young Bob, but over some period of time in his life, like it changed. His voice does not sound like that anymore, and there's a new, very distinctive sound that it has. Yeah,
and a lot of that is because he's just getting older, or he's gotten older, and a lot of it is because he plays like 200 shows a year. He's on. I don't know if you're familiar. He's on what's called, the fans call it the Never Ending Tour, right? Which encompasses like multiple tours he's had going back to the 80s. But he's technically had an unbroken tour streak stretching all the way back to like 87 or 88. Like he has toured
still to this day?
To this day, he's toured consistently over 100 shows a year with basically the same like core band who is on all his new records.
I did not know that.
Basically, over 100 shows a year, going all the way back to the early or late 80s. Excuse me. So wow. a lot of that, I think, is just he's leaned into his age, one, and two, he's an older man out there performing hundreds of times a year, and it's taking its toll.
Wear and tear.
Yeah, wow. And there's another thing about Dylan, which I can't remember where I read this, but I remember reading somewhere that like basically even in his youth, even when he was like in his early 20s, he basically was like he he put it in more words than less. He basically said, "I can't wait until I'm like, I have like a really grovelly old man. I can't wait until I'm an old man." Like I think in his mind, he's kind of, I think he thinks he feels like he's at his peak. Like he's at this,
he sounds like he always intended to sound right now.
He sounds like he always wished he sound, I think. He's he gets to be Muddy Waters. He gets to be like this elder statesman, almost like kind of bluesman, like mythical kind of mysterious.
His heroes
figure.
were old. Those were his heroes, and now he gets to sound like that.
He gets to embody that. Yeah.
And good Lord, his voice.
Yeah.
You guys, if you haven't listened to this album yet, definitely listen. You probably enjoy our discussion more if you stop now, listen to it, and come back. Probably.
Here's the first like controversial.
Fucking.
Yeah.
Wow.
There were several moments on this album where I actually laughed out loud at.
Dude, it is constantly hopping back and forth over the line of comedy.
Okay, I have it. Do you want to know the song? The song that made me laugh.
Okay, yeah.
Was Hark, the Herald Angels sing.
Yeah, dude, totally, man.
The way he says Herald in that song. Next time you the Herald.
So dude, what about do you hear what the way that he does the high note and do you hear what I hear?
Yeah.
Do you hear what
Yeah. It's a Hail Mary. It's a full court like jump shot to get to that note.
But that being said, this is the thing that is fucking amazing about his voice. It probably is what you're expecting me to sing, to say, which is that under that texture,
yes,
of just the timbre and the textural quality of his voice,
the gravel, the grit,
the man is a rock solid singer.
Yes,
all the fundamentals, all of the fundamentals of how a good singer sings is there,
right there,
and you can hear because I didn't
like Brandon. Did he sing one time on this album? Did he sing out of key or off note?
No. He nails every single note.
Every single one, and these are all
every note. Essentially
live recordings in a room with a band too.
Yes.
Like, that's the way he records. He records a band in like a I'm gonna flex my muscles a little bit here as someone who's actually observed a Bob Dylan session before and got to in real life. I got to be there, and
lucky son of a bitch.
And I just have known some of the engineers who worked with him in his later period. The way he sets up in a studio is it's like drummer in the middle of the room, and then everyone basically kind of sets up in a semicircle with Bob is more in the middle of the room, and then everyone kind of sets up. And he basically is playing and singing and performing, and nobody's wearing headphones, and he's basically conducting the band live in a room together in a really old school
they
kind of way.
Nobody's wearing headphones.
No,
that's fucking.
I mean, I can't speak to this album specifically, but I know for a fact that is how he would record.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah. Like you can hear the room so much. That is probably the only production nitpick, and it's purely a matter of opinion and taste. Mm-hmm. Just my personal taste. I think that there's a little bit too much of the sound of the room.
We'll continue before we go into production stuff. Keep going down the thread you had on his voice. He is technically like a great singer.
Yes, yeah, and so I didn't listen to a whole lot of any of his other material in preparation for this discussion, this podcast, because Normally when we do this, I like to listen to a bunch of the artist's music before and after it and everything, and just kind of put it in context for comparison and all this shit. Try to like put this album in like a chronological place and everything. But Bob Dylan just has too much music.
Like 50 albums. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just too much to listen to. So I listened to like Highway 61 Revisited, and that's it.
That's so funny that was the one that was like your comparison point.
Why is it funny that that's the one? See, this is how little I'm familiar with his material. I wouldn't know how, like, the significance between the two.
Only because
I just picked it because it's the famous one.
Sure, yeah, no,
and because he was young.
No, I'm not making fun of you for your. It's a great record, and I don't blame you for picking that. But to his eras that he had were so like defined and like cordoned off from each other. Like there's not like even within the 60s, he went from like little jingle jangly like Mr. Tambourine folk singer guy, like to like a year later doing the like cool heroin chic electric Bob Dylan thing. Those might as well be two different people, you know what I mean? And those are like a year apart from each other. So I think it was good of you to listen to some other Dylan stuff, but I think the proper thing probably would have been you kind of would have to couch this in the era in which it came out, which you would have. I think if you listen to like maybe Modern Times or Love and Theft, some of the albums that were like more recent to this one, that this might make a little bit more sense because those kind of share a similar like sonic quality to this one, and obviously he's older or whatever. But
the reason why I listened to Highway 61 Revisited is because it was specifically because I wanted to gauge an evolution of his voice.
Yes,
specifically.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hear him when he was young, like his voice that he got known for. What did his voice sound like when he was famous? And then I wanted to compare it to how he sounds in Christmas in the Heart.
Yeah.
Because I knew that the graveliness was new. But as I was listening to the Christmas album, it stood out to me how fucking rock solid his pitch is, his technique, the fundamentals. He's got the fundamentals, as they say in baseball and shit, Yeah. Like, and I think that like in comparison, comparing it to when he was young, it's like he gained strength in those fundamentals later, like as he went along. And the thing that you're saying about constantly being on tour makes perfect sense, because like that you can hear it in the Christmas album. Like those are like notches in the belt, reps in the gym.
Absolutely.
Muscles that get developed of just being that steady and that solid with your vocal delivery. But it's so fascinating because on top of it is that texture, which is fucking wild and chaotic, and
it almost
everything
seems like
classically wrong with a singing voice.
Yeah.
But it's like an optical illusion or like an audio illusion, because it's this fucked up paint over a very like stably built foundation. You know what I mean?
Almost to the point where you would like hearing someone speak with that tone of voice or sing with that, you'd almost think this would prevent them from being able to sing well, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And I really feel like people like and because there's a really common thing you see online a lot, or with people who don't like Bob Dylan. There's a really common refrain, and I'm sure you can already guess what it is, which is that Bob Dylan is not a good singer. People
that's what they say about him. That's what they say. That's the first thing about
which
him. Yeah.
I think it's almost like when people say that, it's almost like when people say the Beatles are overrated, and it's almost kind of like I can just be like, it's less than that, because that's like so egregious and annoying that like when people say like the Beatles are overrated or bad or something like that, I almost like immediately like write off like anything else they have to say about music.
Yeah.
And to a way lesser extent, I also feel that way about when people say Bob Dylan's a bad singer, because I'm just like, you just don't here's what you're confusing. You're confusing his voice with his ability, right?
Right.
You
Two
don't
different
like
things.
you don't like the way his voice sounds. You think his
Yes.
voice sounds it's very nasally. It's
What
very
we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is the timbre.
the timbre. Thank you.
The
Yeah, you're right.
timbre of his voice.
Yeah. You
Yes.
don't like, this is a subjective thing. You don't
Yes.
like the timbre, the sound,
Right.
the quality of his voice.
Yes.
And if you don't like it at its peak, there's no way you're going to
Yes.
like it now. You'll have the same thing. You'll say, this guy's a bad singer if you listen to this record. But I can't tell you what a relief it is to hear Brandon say and come to the correct conclusion.
Hey, man. Yeah.
And Bob Dylan is a good
I
singer.
call it like it is. It's all good.
Brandon calls balls and strikes. I appreciate that about him very much. He's a straight shooter. But
like you say, the timbre, or I can't remember what you called it, and the ability, two different things.
Yeah,
and to say that he, especially this 2009 Dylan, to say that he lacks the ability, that's just factually incorrect.
Incorrect. He doesn't sing a single bad note on this record. He hits.
Yeah.
Now, okay, whether or not you like the timbre,
if you say that the timbre is fucked up,
that's true.
You are factually correct.
You are correct. You are
Holy
correct.
God.
It sounds like
it verges into just straight up comedy at times.
It does.
On this album. It's just like sometimes there are moments where you just have to like look around and be like, what the fuck am I listening to?
It kind of
holy shit, dude.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like you know how we just said that he likes to record with no headphones and in a room with a band?
Yeah.
It sounds like he's trying to project above like the drum. A band.
Yeah.
And he's almost like he's pushing it a little too hard.
Yeah.
And what you'll find if you listen to his records post this one and a lot of ones before this, I think this is kind of a loud, raucous. Some of the songs on this record are like really up and
Must
loud.
Be Santa. They're just rocking.
Dude, that song that song is such a jam.
It's such a jam.
It's so good. Like,
yes.
Oh my God. I listened to this album a couple times this week. It really put a pep. Anytime that song came on, like when I was on a walk or something, I'm just like, dude. And he's singing so fast.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister. You know, it's one of those songs like Rattling Bog. You know, where like that every time it comes around, the tongue twister gets longer and longer and longer.
Yeah, more complex.
And he fucking nails it perfectly, like a gymnast.
Yeah.
Like
someone you'd expect, someone who's like famous as a wordsmith first and foremost. Really, like a poet. You know, it's like yeah.
That's one of the things about this album is he's right. He's one of the great artists, you know, like he's whatever the male equivalent of the divas is, you know, he's one of those.
Yeah.
And he's an all-timer. And like this is one of those albums that guys like that can make.
Yes.
And but he does it properly. He's not phoning it in. He's not resting on his laurels. He's not just capitalizing on the name.
Yeah.
He is in a position where he can put forward something that is like so uncommonly high quality and has depth in a certain way that only these like real ones, these old timer guys can do, like a Willie Nelson kind of a thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's trippy though, because it's like he is one that lived, you know?
Right.
So many of the great artists, rock stars, and everything. So many of them died, and you always wonder, like, man, like, can you imagine if Jimi Hendrix was like still alive? Like, what albums would he even sound like? Would he be touring? What would have happened and everything?
Would he have sucked ass?
Yeah. Would he have started to suck after a while? Or would people have just stopped caring about him after a while or something? But it's fascinating because Bob Dylan is one who did live, and you get to see here's an example of what did happen when one of those guys gets old. And I do. So I do know that there are the Bob heads. The Bob Hive is out there. You guys, yeah. Nate's waving at the camera. You guys are there, but like when he was in his peak, everybody cared about him, and after a certain point, the world in general doesn't give a shit about Bob Dylan anymore.
Yeah, they kind of wrote him off.
Yeah.
He's reclaimed his proper status on the mantle, I believe, though. Like the last 25 years or so, he's really done a lot of work to like.
I think that may be a Bob Hive.
No,
bubble.
It's not. He won
the wider world, the pop culture in general.
He won
nobody's thinking about what Bob Dylan is doing. Nobody fucking gives a shit. You think about Bob Dylan, you think about the 60s. Hey, hey.
Look,
like that is who he is to like the general awareness. Yeah, go ahead.
Counterpoint to that, and then I think we should get into more specifics on this album and what we like about it and production and all that stuff.
All right.
Counterpoint to that would be that
counterpoint. No.
Yeah. Counterpoint to that would be that he's had like a really unprecedented run the last like 20-ish years of like critical acclaim. Like the critics have come back. The quality of his albums is back. It's very high.
I haven't heard any of them. Don't know the name of a single one of them.
Yeah, but you are okay. All right, you're starting to prove your point now. Okay, and he also, I don't know if you know that he won like what is it, like the Nobel, some kind of what is the prize for writing that's like really insane?
Is it for poetry?
I forget what it is. Let me look it up really quick. Bob Dylan.
Because the one that Kendrick won was for poetry, right?
Yeah, it was a different one than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he won the Nobel Prize in literature.
Oh, in literature, okay.
Yeah, so like, I mean, and it's like
for his lyrics or something that he wrote.
I think it was maybe kind of like a music. Lifetime thing, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because I guess he is known for his story, his songs where the lyrics are basically just him telling a story.
I don't know. Yeah, I think they kind of bent the rules a teeny bit as far as like who was considered for a prize like that, because it's usually authors and stuff, I believe. But they gave it to him, and I think it's rightfully so. I mean, if you just look at his body of work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Whatever. I'm not gonna. We don't need.
Nobody knows that they gave him that award.
That was 10 years ago, almost. Anyway, okay. So, whatever. I'm not. Us discussing whether Bob Dylan is famous or not is beside the point. Let's go into the album proper.
Yes. Yes.
Should we start with any like standout songs? What did you have any like favorite tunes on this, or even maybe, like was there any that was like a dud for you? Because for me, it's like the whole thing kind of hits. Like even one I remember when we had our preliminary discussion when we picked this, there was one that stuck out to me that I was like, oh, that's probably gonna suck, and it was Christmas Blues. Okay. And I actually thought that rocked. I thought it was really, really good.
The first time that I listened to the album, so the Christmas Blues is the first of maybe 3 songs. There's like the Christmas Blues, Must Be Santa, and Christmas Island that are like not common Christmas songs. That a lot of people, like myself, I didn't even know that those 3 songs even existed. I'd never heard of them before, let alone heard them. But all the songs are covers. They are all, pre-existing Christmas songs from an earlier era that he picked.
They're all like pre-60s too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, those 3 are like from the 40s or something, right?
Yeah, they're like proto Well, I guess I'm describing more like the sound and style of the album. I would describe as like proto rock. It's like pre,
Yeah,
like almost the
before.
sound of like anticipating rock and roll, but not really rock and roll.
Yeah, before Elvis,
Yeah,
before Chuck Berry,
yeah,
before rock and roll happened.
yeah.
Yeah. And so the Christmas Blues is the first one of those new. It's the seventh track, so you've got 6 tracks that you know and recognize, Christmas songs that you've been hearing your whole life, and then the Christmas Blues is the first new one to arrive.
Mhm.
And yeah, it starts all hey ho you know, all sauntering in, and yeah, the first time that it started, and I saw the title of it, I'm like, oh god, here we
Yeah,
go.
I kind of thought so
And
too.
even just the title of the Christmas, I'm like, this is gonna be so fucking stupid. Oh my
Sounds
god!
like lame old guy.
But it's fucking badass.
Really good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
At least this version of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I would or will like the original version or other people's versions.
I don't even know who
But
did it.
it, yeah, me neither. But there's a couple on here. I feel like the songs on this album, all 15 of them, you could put them in like 2 categories. One where like Bob Dylan and his vocal timbre and the sound of his voice, it's like whatever, I guess. This would sound better if someone else was singing.
Mm.
And the other category is where it's like the reason why this is working so well is because of how he sounds singing this.
Totally.
And it is making it work right now. And I think the Christmas Blues is in that category, where like his sound really suits it and really makes it happen,
Yeah.
you know?
I will say,
Yeah.
I will say, if there's one song on here, because I think you generally probably agree with me that like he, regardless of what you think about the sound of his voice, he pretty much nails all these songs across the board.
Yeah.
I think except for one, and it's only because
Which one?
and I don't even think this version's bad. It's just that the original version is so famous and it's so good that it becomes a really tough comparison side by side, and that's the Christmas song that Nat King Cole did, the original version of that song. And I did a little reading, and it's funny, some of the only stuff you can find, at least on Wikipedia, because that's the only place I looked, about this album.
I cracked open and did
old research
deep
books.
research of Wikipedia.
Wikipedia.
And only Wikipedia.
But I found a quote where the band, I think it was probably Tony Garnier, who's like his bass player, band leader. He's the Brandon of Bob Dylan's band.
Oh, okay.
He's like the band leader, bass player, musical director kind of guy.
Okay.
And he's been that guy for like 30 plus years now. He's a really
And that's cool that he has such a successful shampoo line as well.
yeah, exactly. Garnier.
Garnier Fructis.
Yeah, it's funny.
He must be very busy. Yeah.
I found a quote of, it might have been Tony Garnier, it might have been somebody else, talking about like their method for like arriving at these arrangements. And basically the way it would work is the session would get all set up, they'd be ready to go. Bob would walk in and like kind of at least tell them or teach them the song he wanted to do, or they would figure out the song, and they would listen to classic versions like versions of songs like Louvin Brothers, who are fantastic, like country brother duo. They would listen to like Nat King Cole, Sinatra. They'd listen to like great artists doing those interpretations, and they would basically like pick and choose and make their own kind of amalgamation of their cover. And that's kind of where they would start from. And if it wouldn't work, Dylan would like go home for the night and then come back the next day, and he'd have kind of a new idea on it or whatever. But it sounds like it was like very, very fluid. But like one of the ones he references and kind of in a low key way kind of says, me reading between the lines almost kind of feels like him, admitting that maybe it didn't quite work, which was like that they worked on the Christmas song, and he says like, there's no way we're gonna like reach the potential of like the original, even of Nat King Cole. Like you can't you can't really do better than Nat King Cole, right? And especially like Nat King Cole's voice is so like smooth and sultry and beautiful, and it's like
Yes.
the opposite of this, right?
Yes.
And so like that comparison, that makes it a rough listen for me. Even couched in an album that I really, really like and think that they basically nailed it.
Wow.
That one's tough.
This is amazing. It is. I wasn't expecting that it would be you to be the first one to say that like the sound of his voice ruins the experience of one of these songs for me, you know. But yeah,
The arrangement's great. The a lot of it's really good. It's just that
yeah,
it's tough because that song's famous.
the original version.
The original's so good.
So like, I mean, Nat King Cole, I mean, he's like one of the paragons of this wider thing, which is that Christmas music in general is something that you're used to hearing with very technically like rock solid, very smoothly performed vocal parts.
Yep.
It just is a style of music where
you got Bublé, you got Sinatra, you got Nat King Cole. It's like crooner music half the time is when it's treated.
My personal favorite, Bing Crosby.
Bing Crosby, absolutely.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah, man. And even just outside of the great singers, and even into the more common ones that you hear in an elevator, that you hear in the mall, that you hear, just playing in stores in Christmas time, just like just the generic versions. It's a style of music that is basically, unofficially supposed to have a very traditionally smooth, strong, straight ahead, powerful vocal performance, right?
Yeah.
It's a style of music where the vocals are not at all like experimental or like unique and nuanced and
right.
Idiosyncratic, and you're supposed to sound like a normal singer,
right?
And so I feel that rub and that contrast with every single song on this album, like makes that grinds on my brain. Like I'm used to hear. I mean, all of them. Here Comes Santa Claus. Do you hear what I hear? Winter Wonderland. Hark the Angels Sing. All of them are like you're expecting a very buttery voice to be singing them. All of them.
Wrong.
Yeah, not in this case.
Not this time. Yeah.
Silver bells. Silver bells. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are some of them that I think like really, really work really well. Like,
I got the ones, the one that bugged me a little bit.
It was the Christmas song.
Let's talk about standout songs. What was your standout song or songs on this record?
I really like the way that they did "Hark the Herald Angels Sing."
That's the one that like made me laugh.
Hark the Herald Angels Sing, glory to the newborn King. But it's great. When the songs are good on this album, they're good as a whole.
Yeah.
It's not just because, I like the way that Bob sang that one. It's the whole thing, because you got to bring in the band.
The band and
the arrangements.
Yes.
The choices made for how this is going to be instrumentalized.
Yes. Yeah.
Are so fucking tasty.
Yeah. It's
really so genius. There's such great
it's like very
diversity.
classically done. Classic
classically,
American. Like classic American style.
Yeah, man. And classy. It is classy.
Yeah. And, we've been kind of emphasizing the fact that like this is like it really sounds like a live recording of a band, like in a room. But there is a lot of overdubs on this, and it comes in the form of these like beautiful, like siren angelic, very mid-century female vocal.
Yes.
those things kind of stick out a little bit on the album, but
Yes.
it kind of makes it because it further like couches this in like 1948 kind of feeling
Yeah.
of these songs.
And you can feel it so intentional when they bring in those backing vocalists. Like it's so intentional to put this mid-century sprinkle onto it. And you can tell that they choose when to do it because it will work here.
Yep.
And it's really fascinating to me where they choose to not do it also.
Interesting.
Like for example, in Silver Bells, right? What you're used to, so the lead singer goes Silver Bells, and then what comes next?
Round. Silver bells.
Exactly.
Like round, right?
Then the choir sings Silver Bells behind him, but not in this version.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is no choir. There's only Bob. The way that the arrangement does it is the band plays the response to his call.
Yeah.
So Bob goes Silver Bells, and the band goes da da da.
Yeah.
Silver Bells, da da da. And so we know that they have a choir on deck for this album because they're sprinkled throughout it. But it's like it's a choice to not do it there. You know?
Yeah.
And like I'm looking on Wikipedia. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 backing singers that appeared on the album.
Wow.
1, 2, 3 of them are women. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are men.
There was men.
And so four of the 7 are men. And notice that in different songs they show up in different configurations. So sometimes they are appearing like in a barbershop quartet configuration and singing in a barbershop style. Sometimes there's like 2 females singing in like an Andrews Sisters style. And sometimes it's all of them in like a church choir style. So like they're employed in different ways in different moments in different songs to achieve different textures.
Yes.
It's so fucking dope. And there's, like I said, there's times when they're not gonna do it to achieve a certain texture. What will it sound like if it's just one man's voice and a band? And that's the texture for this song. It's so fucking dope, dude.
It's really interesting.
It's so classy.
You like point out all those configurations that I think went over my head a little bit listening to it. But the cool thing about that, you're so right, is that like those different vocal configurations almost hit on like different forms of like nostalgia for you.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Like
exactly.
they feel like different eras. Like
exactly.
We say like the band is kind of in this like proto rock kind of style, but those vocal things they'll make you feel a little more 50s or maybe a little more 60s even, or like
exactly.
You know, like it,
or you go barbershop and it makes you feel 30s, 40s or something.
Totally.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's really
man.
like masterfully done, and also like the use of like pedal steel and like or lap steel, whatever, like string steel, steel instrument is on this.
It's in there only on some songs.
Some
of the songs don't. There's no drums on some of them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
There's fucking violins on some and not on others.
Yeah. Just like classic Americana, American sounds, tones, textures, and like decisions. And what that speaks to, all these production decisions, what that speaks to is the fact that he did really genuinely, earnestly care about these songs and the presentation of these songs.
Yes.
And he was putting his absolute best foot forward with this record. And it shows. I think if you can get past like the ironic like condescension and like, you know, casting this aside as like some weird thing.
Easy to hate, easy to make fun of.
Yeah, like
if you can
really
get past that.
Really like critically like listen to this, and it's like it's so clear how much like love and thought was put behind this. Okay.
Yes.
And so, okay, Dylan in his past, right? Okay, I'll do like a very rapid little Dylan history lesson just to put what I'm.
Yeah, I could use this because I I don't really know the Dylan history. Yeah.
Okay, so Dylan was like super famous. He opened for Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech,
He
right?
did?
He played.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he
What the
played
fuck?
directly before on the National Mall, directly before Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech.
What the fuck?
Bob Dylan played "Times They Are Changing" and fucking whatever else. Like he was like, dude, he was that guy. He was that level,
Oh my God.
like in culture
Yeah.
at that time, right?
Yeah.
He's like really, really amazing. And I think Bob Dylan, throughout his career, he's really enigmatic, really mysterious, very private, mysterious, kind of weird guy, right? But he's kind of zigged when everyone was expecting him to zag multiple times in his career, right? Where like
Okay.
he was captain protest singer. So what did he do? He says, "Well, I'm sick of that label. I'm sick of those expectations that come along with that. So fuck it. I'm going to get really existential, not be like super political in my writing anymore, and be more prosaic and more existential and weird."
So that's when his lyrics get bizarre, like stream of consciousness.
Stream
and
of
bizarre.
consciousness stuff. So that was
see.
like a fucking 90-degree turn, 90-degree like hard right turn that he made, and that's when he went electric. Really threw everyone off.
Yeah, so everyone is so into what my lyrics mean. Like, all right, figure out what the fuck this means. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
find
And,
meaning in this. Like, yeah.
It's almost like a deliberate. He does this many times throughout his career. It's almost like a deliberate like culling of the fan base of expectations on him.
Wow.
He did it with going electric. He did it with when he went Christian, right?
Yeah,
In the late 70s. That in all these moments in his career, and there's a really famous moment around the
Culling
time
his
of
fan base.
the time of Woodstock. When everybody's playing Woodstock, it's all this counterculture stuff, and everyone's calling him the voice of the generation, and like he's like the guy, right? Even though he'd already been doing all these records to kind of like cast that label off of himself, he put out a record called Self Portrait, which is Bob Dylan's a painter as well. He literally painted a self portrait of himself, like a watercolor, and he put this out, and it's like a notoriously like bad album, but he made it bad on purpose. Like it's a deliberately bad album. Like it looking back, people like me now love it because it's like so weird and interesting.
Because you're in the cult.
Because I'm in the cult. Yeah, I drink. But he like deliberately made a bad album, right? And it's like there are even albums of his where like he deliberately like he's like very famously has this it's called the bootleg series where it's like these official releases that he puts out, but they're all these songs that got left off of his albums. And it's like you go through these bootleg track lists and it's like you could put together an alternate album of outtakes that are actually better than the album he put out at the time, right?
So he intentionally picked
like the worst.
He's like, no, that's too good. Don't put that on.
Like it. Like we'll never really know, but it almost seems like it, right? So he does this all the time. And when Christmas in the Heart came out, my first gut reaction was like, he's doing it again. He's doing this shit again. He's putting out a fucking stupid Christmas album to try to
chase everyone
people away
who
because
likes me.
Yeah, because this had come on the heels of yet another like great critical period for him, right?
So it's going too well.
Yeah,
I need to blow it up.
Yeah, like it, and I can't imagine that a lot of times that's not deliberate on his part, and like I think a lot of people who were Dylan nerds like myself, that's what we took this as. We're just like, oh my god, he's just trying to like throw everyone off the trail again. He's trying to go dark. He's trying to go, you know, he wants this to bomb basically, so that I don't know, maybe it'll free him up to do other things he wants to do or something, or just not do anything if he doesn't want to. But I think that honestly, after having some time with this record, that's not it. That's not what this is.
It's not that.
This is like really
he really cared.
Earnest, attempt like, because I think he sees himself as like, and I think rightfully so, I think he sees himself as like a steward in the tradition that these songs kind of emanate from, right? Like he is like the current like custodian and probably the only person on earth who like cares this much about this material at this point. To kind of it's his burden at this point to like reintroduce these songs to people and to present them in like a very traditional way. Like that is like part of his role,
Yeah.
I think, at this point.
Yeah, there's something very like I don't even know what the word is. It just sort of like snaps you out of it or something. You know, so you and I are both, like a lot of people know, we play reggae. We're reggae musicians,
Yeah.
and so, but you know, we're from California, so the majority, 99% of all of the other reggae musicians that we've ever spent time around are American also, or the point is not Jamaican.
Yeah.
But there's this feeling that you get when you are in the same room as Jamaicans, especially older guys who are from the like original generation who invented reggae, and they play it. There's just like this feeling of like, oh,
Right.
like there's a power that comes from when it's not a photocopy.
Yes, it's
It
not an
is the
imitation.
original. It
Yeah.
is the first generation of a thing,
Right.
right? And so, yeah, this album does have that quality. Like he's the custodian. He's bearing the torch.
Yes.
Where for all the rest of us, these songs are, no matter how much we really do love them, and no matter how much we ourselves have an earnest appreciation for these songs, there's some level of that it's novelty of what we're listening to.
Yeah.
And so therefore that's what it's going to be like for if any of us were to perform it.
Right.
But there's a quality of these songs where he's doing it where it's not, it is the first real thing. It's not novelty.
Right. Right.
And so like, yeah, like I agree. You can hear him being aware of his duty.
Yes.
And
you can find stuff of him talking about it in that way, like he him
really?
saying stuff just like
I didn't see that on Wikipedia.
I did. I did.
Okay. I didn't look that closely. So
Yeah, it's like I think people asked him at the time, like what was the decision process to do these so earnestly, and he was like, "There's no other way to do them. Like why?
fuck yeah. See?
Yeah,
Fuck yeah.
there's no other way to treat these songs than like with respect." And yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know. This album's gotten an unfair shake for a long time, and like
Because it seems so stupid on paper.
it does, but it's not. It's really not. It's
And then you hear the timbre of his voice and you're like, I knew it. See?
Yeah. Okay.
like when you give it 3 seconds, this album is fucking ridiculous.
It is.
And when you give it 3 seconds, it's like, I cannot believe that this exists.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But when you get in, it's like, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
This is how you make music. This is how you're supposed to make music, man. This is the shit. You know?
Closing thoughts, final thoughts on Bob Dylan's Christmas in the Heart.
I think one last thing that I really, really appreciate and admire, and I think was such a good decision and classy thing to do, is how short the arrangements are of the songs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Remember when I told you?
Yeah,
I'm like, this is going to be 60 plus minutes. Like
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
really
right.
long.
Just when you picked this and we were talking about it, and you're like, oh, I can't remember how many songs. I'm like, oh, there's 15 songs. You're like, oh crap, this is going to be over 60 minutes. It's like 2/3 of the length that you thought it was.
Right.
You know, it's out of those 15 songs.
Your cat.
Oh yeah, you can hear my cat. She's trying to get my attention.
Sounds really sad. My dog's doing the same thing right now.
This is,
Oh my god.
don't worry, she's not actually in that kind of pain that she sounds like she is. She's trying to convince me to give her a treat.
She's doing her best Bob Dylan impression right now.
Yeah, she's trying to sound pitiful. Oh my god. All right, hang on. What's it?
Okay.
Cat. Kitty. I have to like distract her for a second.
Wow.
She's like, pay attention to me. But yeah, out of these 15 songs, only two of them are over 3 minutes long. They're all like 2.5. One of them is like under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They're so quick. They get in, they do the thing, and they get out. Because a lot of them are like old traditional songs who like in their original version, they have like 10 verses.
Right.
And sometimes when people record these songs, they're like, well, we should just do all the verses. And it's like...
And like Dylan, his own original songs have fucking 10 verses.
Right.
He's like all verses. He doesn't even have like choruses really. Like his music is all like just verse, refrain, verse,
keep
refrain,
it going.
verse, refrain.
Over
like
and over.
Verses.
Yeah. 5 more than you want. He's got them. He's got more. He's like, well, I wrote more, so I'm going to sing more.
Yeah.
But he does the opposite. And I don't know, I'm giving credit of the arrangement to probably belongs to more people than just him.
Oh yeah, no, probably Tony Garnier, I would think, is probably a huge part of it. I'm gonna look up some of the players.
Yeah, so it just makes these songs that much more palatable, that much more like yeah, I'll listen to that again.
Yeah, Tony Garnier on bass. The other, probably not a lot of people that anyone would recognize, but also David Hidalgo from, I think, Los Lonely Boys is.
Nice.
Plays accordion on this. He's played on a bunch of Dylan stuff too.
Yeah, there's a couple like multi-instrumentalists. It says David Hidalgo and Donnie Herron.
Yep.
So they each played guitar, mandolin, and violin. Donnie Herron played trumpet as well, and the pedal steel, and David Hidalgo played the accordion.
Yep.
So there's like, yeah, man, just the diversity of arrangement. They struck this like beautiful balance between cohesion, where they all obviously sound like they're from the same session, and variety, where each song is like a different setup. And that's not the result that you get when you do these Christmas albums half-assed. When you're just doing it, it's like, okay, let's get the drums on all the tracks. Okay, play the guitar on all the tracks. Okay, we got some violin players here. All right, get the violins on all the tracks. Oh,
that's like
singers.
How I do stuff.
Here's the singers. Okay, get the singers on all the tracks. That's.
I mean, that's like how I do records. I'm like, okay, right. This is on one song, so now it has to be on 10 songs. It's like, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, there's lessons to be learned. I mean, this is the product of like elder statesmen of music, and not younger whippersnappers like us. Like there's a lot that we can learn.
Yeah, speaking
from this,
whippersnappers.
Oh yeah.
Got my dog.
Your dog is here.
Or just the audio.
Our pets want our attention. Yeah, you can hear my cat requesting attention, and
both pets are
dog.
We're not prepared for long form podcast discussion.
Yeah,
we're not.
Our pets have not given their permission that we do this for so long.
Yeah.
What about you? Closing thoughts, final thoughts on this?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think so. Not to get like hyperbolic or anything. Mm-hmm. And I know we've established like I've drank the Kool-Aid. I'm the Dylan. I blah blah blah. But like, okay, Bob Dylan, at this point, has such a pedigree, and his art is so like intrinsic. And has been so thoroughly woven into like the fabric of like American society and even like the world to like maybe a lesser extent.
Yes.
Definitely America. He is like beyond important when it comes to like living artists.
Yeah.
And I would even like, I don't, I was thinking about this last night. I don't categorize him in the context of like other 60s rockers. Like he's like way beyond that. Like yes, he got his start there, but like when I think of like, and this is going to sound like a lot, but I really think that I'll be vindicated by this someday. This is how people are going to talk about him when he's gone, okay?
Okay.
He belongs in the same lineage as like Van Gogh and like Picasso. I really feel that way. I'm not even just saying that because I like him a lot. I'm saying that because I think that is
the level of artistry.
The level of artistry that he possesses is on that level, and he will be like.
Yeah, I need to think about that to longer to be able to say whether.
Sorry,
what was that?
that was me making a good point. That's a sound like
money. I need to think about that longer to know whether or not I agree, but I get what you're saying.
I think that like, okay, there has to be somebody, right, from the 20th century who fits in that pantheon of artistry.
Kendrick. But yes.
Sure, but like I'm not even talking like contemporary. I'm talking like 20th century, like the last 50, 60 years. There's somebody, and like who else?
There's got to be someone from that century. I mean, he's one of the first names that you're going to put up as a contender for sure.
He has to be. He has to be. And like I understand that price sounds a little crazy if you're not like a Bob Dylan
or
whatever.
I mean, because he's a person that whether or not you're into him, like whether or not you're into him, the fucking size and significance of him is undeniable. Like everybody knows. Everybody knows. Like he's. Yeah. Anyway.
Everybody knows a something and a something tree or something. Isn't that how it goes?
A something tree. I wonder what the something tree could possibly be, Nate. Gonna be a fucking Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Something tree.
Yeah.
But see, that's what the timbre of his voice like lulls you into. It lulls you into believing that he cares that little. The timbre sounds so lackadaisical. It sounds like he doesn't give a fuck, and that's why his voice sounds like that.
Yeah.
It's such like an illusion. It sounds like he's drunk, and he's probably not.
Yeah.
Like and so on and so on. It just sounds like fucking something tree or something.
Yeah. He's been memed on forever. But like, you gotta scratch the surface a little bit. You gotta try as a listener. Dope. This is asking more of you as a listener, and you have to respond accordingly. Like you do have to kind of try. When you're listening to this, there's some effort required. If you have some preconceived notions, thoughts, feelings about Bob Dylan, you got to kind of push those to the side and really listen.
Really listen. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Listen through your snark. Your snark.
Your snark.
Yeah.
Your heart.
What did you say?
I said heart.
Listen through your heart. Yes.
Listen with your heart.
Right. Yeah. Get past your snark and listen with your heart.
Yeah. Exactly. So, Brandon, with all that said, would you recommend Bob Dylan's "Christmas in the Heart"?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the stronger recommends that I've had, simply because of how much value there is past how strongly you would expect that it's fucking stupid. So you got to really recommend it in that case because it requires a recommendation to even listen to it. If you hadn't assigned this, if you hadn't recommended,
it's true.
I would never listen to it.
It's true.
So, yes, I would recommend. What about you, Nate? Would you recommend Christmas in the Heart by Bob Dylan?
I would. I absolutely would. I would say with the caveat that, like, your mileage may vary, right? Like, I wouldn't necessarily say throw this on at like a Christmas party and not like
listen to it by yourself.
Yeah, like I wouldn't like not expect like some side eye glances and like, you know, people being like, what the fuck?
Yeah, someone would walk up to you and be like, "Can we turn this off?
Yeah, probably.
Can we change this, please?"
Probably. But
you're scaring away the girls.
You are.
Bro, the girls are leaving.
Yeah. Bro, Santa and his elves are packing up right now. They're getting milk and cookies next door right now. This is fucking, you're ruining the party.
Bro, you're ruining Christmas.
You're ruining Christmas, yeah. Also, we haven't even one last final thing. We haven't even mentioned. Did you notice who produced this album?
Whoa, no. Let me boot up my Wikipedia. Produced by Jack Frost.
Jack Frost.
Bob Dylan's pseudonym.
Yeah.
He credited himself as Jack Frost.
He's always credited himself as Jack Frost when he produces albums. He's still to this day when he's the producer on all of his albums or on all of his newer albums, and he always goes by Jack Frost. And I thought that was so funny.
What?
Almost
Is this the first one?
No.
Did he do that? No.
No, okay. He's done it like going back to like the 90s, I think. He's always credited himself as Jack Frost.
Do you know why?
I don't know why. I don't know why he goes by that, but
it was just something because he's from fucking Duluth. He's like from the coldest
place ever,
the coldest place in America.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, I would recommend
that's pretty funny.
Bob Dylan's Christmas in the Heart. It's super good, super fun. So if you enjoyed this discussion, make sure you join our Patreon, where we will have a little follow-up mini discussion, post discussion.
Yes.
On Christmas in the Heart, and we'll also discuss the next pick for the next album that Brandon will be picking, which I'm really excited to hear what the next pick is going to be.
That's right. And you can also listen to the completely unedited, unabridged version of this very discussion, along with the video component, so you can see our beautiful eyeballs in our black and white band t-shirts that we're both wearing.
Especially, and in our respective real studios that we're both in.
Yes, very real, actual, not fake studios.
Yes.
Which you'll understand when you see the video.
My studio is pretty static. It stays the same. It will stay pretty much the same week to week. But Brandon, he has an eye for interior decoration, and every week it seems like he's got this idea to change his studio up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. I like to mix it up.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time on Playback.
That's right. I just want to say the links where you can find our stuff. Okay. So our patreon.com/blackmarketdub. You can find our and listen to and find and stream and purchase our music, our reggae music at blackmarketdub.bandcamp.com.
And patreon.com/blackmarketdub as well. You can find more fun podcast goodies over there.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, and happy holidays to all of you. Happy listening. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.